Hello everyone! In today's video, I will show you how to name the system of linear inequalities. So let's start by labeling each inequality in the system. So we have here inequality A, then we have here inequality B, and then we have here inequality C. So we are going to find out the equation of the boundary line of each inequality. And we can use the slope-intercept form. Since we have the graph, it is convenient for us to find the slope and the y-intercept. So for inequality A, if you take a look at the boundary line of our inequality A, it's actually a solid boundary line and it passes through the origin. So that means our y-intercept would be equal to 0. Then we find the slope using the rise over run concept. To do that, we at least need 2 points that's on the line. Since we already have the y-intercept where it's at the origin, we can now use this as a starting point. Then we just have to find another point that's on the line. We can use this point here. So that would be our destination point. So starting from the y-intercept, we can move up by how many units? It's going to be 2 units. So positive 2 because we're moving up. So we got positive 2 for the rise, and then after moving up, we are going to move right so that we can go to the destination point. So that would be 1 unit. Positive 1 for the run because we moved to the right. So our slope would be 2. That would make our equation as y is equal to 2x plus 0, or simply y is equal to 2x. Next, we are going to change the equal sign into an inequality symbol. So how do we do that? We are going to check the half plane. So if you can see in the graph, there's a blue shade there. And if we take a look at the blue boundary line, the shade is actually below the blue boundary line. So that means it's going to be less than. But don't forget, we also have to check the type of boundary line. So since we have a solid boundary line, therefore, our inequality symbol would be less than or equal to. So that's it for our inequality A. Now let's move on to our inequality B. The same procedure, so we are going to get the equation of the boundary line for our inequality B, and it's a solid boundary line again, and this time this boundary line passes through the y-axis at positive 4. So our slope, our y-intercept is 4, and for the slope, we are going to use the y-intercept as our starting point, and then we can use this point again as our destination point since it's also on the line. So we can go down by how many units? That would be 2, but this time it's going to be negative 2 for the rise because we are moving down. Then we identify the run after moving down by 2 units. Then we are going to move right again by 1 unit. So moving right means positive for the run. So our slope would be negative 2. That makes our equation as y is equal to negative 2x plus 4. Now we are going to change the equal sign into the correct inequality symbol. So we check again the half plane or the shaded region. So if we take a look at the shaded region, it's again below the boundary line of the inequality B. So that means it would still be less than or equal to because the boundary line for inequality B is still a solid line. Now we go to our last inequality, our inequality C. So we identify the y-intercept, and you can see that the y-intercept here, it's at negative 2 because it is where the line passes through the y-axis. So it's negative 2. And our slope would be 0 because our boundary line this time is a horizontal line, which means that we have a slope of 0. So our equation would be y is equal to negative 2. Then we change the equal sign into an inequality symbol. How do we do that? We again check the shaded part. So if you can see, the shade is above the boundary line of inequality C. So it will be greater than. But let's take a look at the type of boundary line of inequality C. This time, it is a dashed line. So that means we don't need to put an equal here. So it will just be y is greater than negative 2. So there we have it. We now have the name of the three inequalities in the system. First is y is less than or equal to 2x. Second would be y is less than or equal to negative 2x plus 4. And the third one is y is greater than negative 2.